Hello, my name's Jay and I'm codependent. I'm very nervous. Part of the amazingness of this program is it's given me the opportunity to not only know what my feelings are, but express them. And I found that in the past that once I get going, that feeling of nervousness goes away a little bit, but I'm also aware that my nervousness leads me to say things that kind of make sense in my head, but don't make sense to people outside of my head. So thank you for bearing with me. I don't exactly have a plan to share, but my topic, I'm a little bit nervous that some will judge this as going into the realm of politics, and I promise I'm going to keep this focused on relationships. And I just want to let you know that if I say something that you find completely unacceptable, you're welcome to mute me or leave and come back or whatever needs to be done. But again, I'm going to keep this focused on CoDA. I've been back in the steps for myself, and I've been thinking a lot about participation. The 12 steps are a program of participation in a world, in a society, in a system that I find to be based on non-participation. We, in the regular world, have this idea of I'll just vote and then the person I vote for will take care of all that complex governance stuff. But here in CoDA, we learn the group conscience system where everyone speaks on each issue and has a say and then gets a vote, and it's just a very different thing. And understanding that difference has brought up a lot of resentment in me because, if the world would just use the 12 traditions, it'd be a much better place. At least for me. Participation. I consider myself still to be a teacher, even though I have not been practicing for the last year and a half. We were starting to have problems with students turning in papers that were AI generated, and it's coming to a head right now. And there's a lot of people who are very concerned about this, but for a lot of my career, I was noticing that in a lot of the education system that I participated in, assignments were assigned. Do this. Why? Because I say so. Well, that doesn't matter. And also, if you don't, you will fail. Oh. Well, I guess I better do this. But I don't want to do it. Therefore, I'm going to find the least effort way to do good enough to pass. I'm going to not participate as much as I possibly can in this process. But education is supposed to benefit me, the educatee. But the system doesn't ask me, hey Jay, what do you think? What do you want to do? What are you interested in? And so it sets up a system of non-participation. Codependence Anonymous, the 12 steps, after having gone through an entire educational system, after having gone through a family dynamic where my parents didn't really care what I thought. Right now it's dinner time because you got to be in bed by this time so that we can have half an hour before we fall unconscious just to be in our own thoughts, because you, as a child, are very loud, exuberant, joyful, happy. This is kind of intimidating for us. Codependence Anonymous said, okay, here's the 12 steps. If this is going to work, you're going to need to participate in this process. You can't ask your sponsor what the answers are, Jay, because your life is very different than your sponsor's life. So what works for your sponsor might not work for you, Jay. Therefore, you, Jay, are going to have to look into your own life. Whoa. I mean, I gotta tell you, there's a lot of stuff that's packed in behind that door that I have shut and locked that I am kind of terrified about looking at. And there's so much stuff, like when I open that door, is it gonna avalanche on top of me? This is scary. I don't want to participate in that. And so I avoid. Hey, what do you know? A codependent characteristic. I go back into my non-participatory methods to stay out of participation. Why don't I want to participate? What's behind that door? Well, interestingly, I was talking about step 8 the other day, and there's this amazing paragraph here. It's the 4th paragraph after the blurb from the CoDA 12-step handbook. Because we were raised in families where abuse, abandonment, neglect, enmeshment, alcoholism, sex addiction, eating disorders, or any other addiction may have existed, we need to be clear about how these influences have affected our adult lives. Wow, wait a minute. Other people's choices have affected my life. I was once very afraid of step 4. I did a very good job of not doing step 4 for as long as possible. And a reason for that is I kept hearing that step 4 was about looking at all the ways I messed up. You know, we use the term defects in step 4. We use the term wrongs in steps 8 and 9. How have I harmed others? How have I wronged others? You know, this is very me. And I'm not saying that I didn't do anything. I'm no angel. There are many things that I regret, but my goodness, who is it okay that my parents spanked me? Is that because I was bad? You know, what about the sexual abuse? Did that have anything to do with me? I don't want to own things that aren't mine. And this non-participatory system sets up this idea of victims and victimizers. And if I'm a victim, it's not my fault. I don't have to participate. If other people are victimizers, it's not my fault. I don't have to participate. And so I can avoid. Recently, we've changed the welcome. We've added 2 words. The welcome used to say family systems. And now it says family and other systems. It talks about dysfunctional systems. Where my recovery has taken me recently is looking at these other systems that exist around me, that I have been influenced by, that I'm not interested in participating in, and yet, because the world is got a system in it that you either participate in our system or you're punished, which is a lot like my childhood, by the way. Take a bath or you're in trouble. I would have to do some part of these systems to be in relationships with other people in the system. For example, homophobia. There was a lot of teenagers teasing teenagers when I was a teenager. I hear that's still going on. And people would use the word gay as a slur. Racism. I mean, I can just say that, but racism is based on this larger system of white supremacy. And while I don't think I behave in a white supremacist fashion, there are certain benefits that are heaped upon me because of the color of my skin. And whether I want it or not, the system imposes itself upon me. Heteronormativity, in order to fit in, kept me in denial about where is my sexuality? Is this even a thing worth questioning? I have pronouns. I know how I look. I look very he. I was raised very he. And I remember being about 4 or 5 years old, standing with my hands on my hips, watching my dad do some work, and my dad said, "Don't stand like that." What? Yeah, you've got your thumbs in front of your hips. That's how a girl stands. You're a boy. Put your thumb behind your hips. What? I'm a human. I'm standing. Why is this gendered? What's going on? What has this got to do with codependency? This has affected my relationships. It's affected my relationships to myself. It's affected my relationships to my inner committee. It's definitely affected my relationship with my parents, with my community, with my teachers, with my students. It's affected my relationship with my higher power. Is my higher power a white supremacist? Does my higher power condone the behavior of society at large? What does my higher power think about the trans community, about individual trans persons? But most importantly, I can look at the characteristics of codependency, and I can ask myself, how am I in denial in these areas? How am I saying to myself, I don't need to worry about this stuff? Because, I'm no member of the KKK, therefore I'm fine. How has the societal assumptions that are imposed, how does that affect my self-esteem? Because there's the self-esteem part of, well, at least I'm not doing what so-and-so is doing. But there's also the self-esteem of, but I could be doing more. I did this, and I did this, and I did this, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing... But is that enough? And does that get in the way of my gratitude? Does that get in the way of my ability to be loving to myself? And if I'm in low self-esteem about what I'm doing, am I taking that out on other people who aren't doing as much as I am? How is that affecting my relationships? How am I being compliant? And this one's very tough. We live in what's called a carceral system. If you don't do what you're told, there are consequences. Pay your taxes, or you're going to jail. Stand up for the wrong person, you might be shot. And what does compliance mean in such a system? Control. How do I give advice to other people? I mean, this is CoDA. We're not supposed to be giving advice, and yet somehow it slips in. You know, I think you should blah, blah, blah. How much of what I am telling another person they should be doing is based on my experience doing something and it working out because of things I'm not really aware of? The way I look. How am I controlling myself? How am I, in a regular conversation with a person who in one way or another is slightly different from me, and I'm saying to myself, don't say that because I don't know if that's the right way to say that, and I don't want to offend. Is that getting in the way of the participatory system of saying a thing and the other person getting to have their feelings and express their feelings, and me saying, wow, I have harmed you through my words. I apologize. That was not my intention. Can we work together to get toward what it is I mean? Oh, if you're too hurt to engage in that conversation, I completely understand. I have other people I can go talk to about this with. I hope that I haven't hurt you so much that we can't come back and repair this soon. And avoidance. If you're brand new to CoDA, there's a whole lifetime of the codependency stuff. This is woven into it. It's not any individual's fault, but by not participating in our systems, we allow the group conscience to be what we're seeing. And I'm not saying we should all go run for office immediately. But what I am saying is, on a daily basis, I'm presented with little opportunities to participate in life. And I can, through the process of recovery, through the process of Codependence Anonymous, through the process of the 12 steps, strengthen myself to be there for myself, for my higher power, for other people, to the best of my ability. The 12 steps as a process, as a participatory system, I believe that's in line with what my higher power wants for the world. And if I avoid it, then it ends up continuing. There are questions in that paragraph, but I just want to re-emphasize, we need to be clear about how these influences have affected our adult lives. Not because they're our fault, but because consciously or unconsciously, we are, in tiny ways, part of the moment-to-moment group conscience. I'm going to stop there. I feel a lot less nervous, and I look forward to hearing what you say, because, that's part of participation too. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very much for letting me speak. And thank you very much all for being here.